So this video is about solving by factoring again, and it is factoring polynomials of higher degree, so more than degree 2. So looking at the first example, what I want to do when I'm factoring any polynomial at all is look to see, is there anything common in all the terms that I can factor out. So if I look here, I can factor a 5x out of every single term. So that's my first step, so I'm going to divide 5x out of everything here. So then I'm left with an x squared for the first term, minus 2x plus 1 equal to 0. So make sure too that when I divided out 5x from this term here, I'm still left with that plus 1, so that if I were to distribute the 5x back through the brackets here, this way, I would end up getting the polynomial that I started with. Oops. So now I can look to see, so in the brackets I have a quadratic, so I want to see, can I factor this? So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to make positive 1 but add to make negative 2. So that would be negative 1 and negative 1. So then factoring that quadratic in the brackets, I'll have x minus 1 and x minus 1 is equal to 0. And I can bring those x minus 1's together, so I can write it as x minus 1 squared. So 5x x minus 1 squared is equal to 0. Okay, so this happens when either the 5x part is equal to 0 or x minus 1 squared is equal to 0. So that happens when x is equal to 0 or 1. Okay, so if x was 0, this part would be 0, and if x were 1, this part would be 0. So that would make this true. Okay, let's see one more example. Okay, so again, I have a polynomial of degree 3, and I'm looking to see, can I factor something out of every single term before I start? Well, I don't have anything that's common with all 4 terms, so therefore I'm going to have to factor this a little bit differently. So with a cubic polynomial, what you want to do is, there's different ways that you can approach it, but what I do is I start by trying to find a factor, one factor of this polynomial. So something that'll make this something for x that'll make this equal to 0. So sometimes it's just by trial and error is maybe the easiest way to do it. So let's just start off with let's try x equals 1. So we're just looking for a factor. So is that a factor of this polynomial? So if I plug in x equals 1, I'll get 1 plus 6 plus 3 minus 10. So that's 9 plus 1 is 10, which is equal to 0. So right away I have that positive 1 is a factor of that polynomial. So that was nice and lucky. I only had to try one thing. So it is a factor. Okay, so x equals 1 is a factor. Okay, so I know I'm going to have something like this, x minus 1, and then something else here. So to figure out what goes on this line here, what I want to do is I can divide the polynomials. So if you need a revision on dividing polynomials, make sure you go back and watch that video. So I could take this cubic expression and divide it by x minus 1, or I can do synthetic division. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do synthetic division. So I am using that factor 1 that I found out here, and then I'm just listing the coefficients of my original polynomial at the top. So I have 1, 6, 3, and negative 10. And then remember with synthetic division, what I do is I just start by bringing down this number here, and then I multiply. So 1 times 1 is 1, so that goes here, and then I add these numbers together. So 6 plus 1 is 7. Then I get 1 times 7 is 7, 3 plus 7 is 10, 1 times 10 is 10, negative 10 plus 10 is 0. And then this will be the coefficient of my x squared, my x, and my constant. So I have here, I erase that blank. So in here what happens is I'll get 1x squared plus 7x plus 10. Okay, so now I want to see, can I factor, sorry, I also have equals to 0. I make sure I don't drop that. So now I want to see, can I factor that? I have a quadratic on the right hand side, or in the right set of brackets. So can I factor that anymore? So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to 10 but add to 7. So I know 5 times 2 will give me 10 and 5 plus 2 will give me 7. So I can factor that more. So I have still this first part here, x minus 1, and then I said the factors were 5 and 2, so 5 and 2 equals 0. Okay, so this will be true then, and if I wanted to check to make sure that this was factored correctly, I could go and I could multiply everything through and then get back to my original polynomial that I started with. So here, the values of x that'll make this true are, from the first bracket, x would be 1, -5, or -2. Okay, so I have 3 solutions there for x. All right, and that's it. Thanks for watching. Good luck with the assignments.